Like a trusted turnout jacket you've had for years, Flex 7 outer shell fabric delivers a perfectly broken-in feel on the very first wear. Flexible, comfortable, and powered with the strength of enforced technology, Flex 7 outer shell fabric is made to move. To learn more, visit tenkatafabrics.com/flex7. Flex 7, powered by enforced technology, only from Tenkata Protective Fabrics.
Seconds count when responding to an emergency. Minutes save count when documenting your day. Emergency Networking makes records management easier and faster with its Fire and EMS solution. User-friendly, complete online and offline functionality, highly customizable, all at an affordable price. For more information, please visit emergencynetworking.com.
Greetings and welcome to the Women in Fire radio show. Today we'll be talking about the importance of giving back to the fire service with community service and other endeavors that we could help give back to. So thank you to Fire Engineering for allowing Women in Fire to be part of the radio show. I am Lisa Baker, the Southwest Trustee for Women in Fire. Today on my show, I have Fire Chief Latosha Clemons, who is the Fire Chief in Forest Park, Georgia. I have Deputy Chief Heather Mozdean, who is the Deputy Chief in Fremont, California. I have Ioana Armstrong, who is the EMN coordinator in Forest Park, Georgia. And I have Willie Ace Saulsberry, who is a retired lieutenant out of Gainesville, Florida, and he now works for the state fire marshals in Florida. Thank you, everybody, for joining me today for this important topic. So today we're going to talk about giving back to the fire service. So individuals that want a career in the fire service generally say they want to provide a service to the community. Oftentimes in an entry-level interview, you will hear when asked, why do you want to be a firefighter? Almost all will want to say, I want to serve my community, to help people, to be a part of a team or a family tradition. Firefighters are generally loved in the community. The public waves at them, brings cookies to the station, and many other things. When a firefighter promotes, some will tell you, I want to make the department better than when I joined. But almost all firefighters give back in some way. Some attain leadership roles in their organizations and become officers, chiefs, so they can help shape the organization. Others find a passion for teaching. Some become mentors. Some give their time off duty to events. Departments give back to the community in many ways as well, such as open houses, 10 block parties, and school events. So the first question will be, some may have heard the saying community-based fire department, meaning the department is more of a good neighbor than a government entity. What does this mean to the fire service, and how does an agency go about doing this? So anyone who wants to go first could tackle that question.
It's a good question for EMA Armstrong.
Get pushed right out there.
Yes, Chief did. That servant leadership, that's why a lot of us get into this. That's just kind of how we are as individuals, and giving back to the community, that's who we're there to serve. And we do that by getting involved with them and getting to know them, and all these events help us kind of build that relationship outside of the typical stressful 911 call. So they get to know us on a more deeper level, and that's why hopefully we become more of a family, not the government entity. That's yes, you're a local fire department, but to me that's what it means as a community-based department, being out there, being visible, and being engaged with them every day.
And Chief Mozdean, I know that when with where we used to work, there on a lot of the promotional tests, there was a book by Alan Bernasini about customer service in the fire department, and he used to talk about it gives the opportunity for the community to know the firefighters on a non-emergency basis. Like sometimes the first interaction a member of the community will have is when they're having their worst day, when they call 911. So
Yeah, yeah, Chief, you're right. I think being a community-based fire service is probably the ultimate goal because we've sort of gone away from, just fighting fires and we're being asked to do a lot more than what we used to. And given it our role, we sort of have the community gives us this trust that we don't ever have to earn. So I think by being involved in the community, it gives us a chance to make those relationships and earn that trust, even though maybe we're earning it after we've been given it. I think that getting out in the community, it does a number of things, but it enables kids to see you, to see that you're real people. And because of that, you can inspire them to be firefighters, or maybe to change their path in life. As kids get older and into high school, we can definitely help them change their trajectory or kind of guide what they want to do with their life. And then for the community, from your moms and dads, they get to see, kind of where their taxpayer dollars are going. And the elderly, you're right, like we can make this connection with them before they need it. And then oftentimes when citizens come to vote, they'll remember that interaction that they had with us, and they'll vote in the best interest of the firefighters. So I think, there's so many different facets to the fire department, but definitely one of them is being a good neighbor, being an integral part of the community and giving back to the community that you serve.
and
I like to add on to that. Mostly, the reflection of our department will be mostly from interactions from most of our members going to the grocery store, driving down the street in the fire engine, or even through our department's social media page. I like to add that if departments are only doing that, they're not doing enough.
Chief Clemons, you're absolutely right. I mean, especially Chief Mozdean, you just made a good point that they'll remember you when it comes time to vote or when the election time comes. And a lot of departments in the past and even now are having budget crises and budget cuts and such, just because of the way the economy, it swings back and forth a lot of times. And so you made a good point, Chief Mozdean, that if they do know who you are, they do know the services that you provide, they do see you out there, not just, as Chief Clemons said, just at the grocery store or just on a 911 call, and then they're done with the call and they pack up the equipment and they get back on their rigs and drive away, that they're going to remember seeing you at these events. And the main thing is they're going to remember the interaction. And I think we've talked about it before, Chief Mozdean, and probably Chief Clemons as well, is that when you're wearing that fire department t-shirt with the name of your organization on the back of it, you're a walking billboard. You're not just representing yourself, but you're representing the department. And so that's one way that I think fire departments could kind of improve with how they do serve the community. And Chief Clemons, you just made a good point that if all you are doing is going to the grocery store or doing little small things, you're really not providing that service. So that was good. Just go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I don't know who was about to speak, but most certainly, we're public servants 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. We're there for the community, not only in their time of need, but also to enhance the way they view us and the perception of the whole fire department. And of course, those t-shirts are our marketing brand. So yes, we must perform at the highest level of professionalism, whether we're on or off duty.
And Chief Clemons, you just made a good point. I'm sure we all follow different departments on social media, and we read trade magazines and daily blogs on social media as well. And sometimes when an incident happens in another department, it kind of has a negative reflection on all departments, because sometimes if it happens at one place, I've had people ask me, well, your department was right near there, so you guys do the same thing that department just did, which was a very unprofessional act. I'm like, no, we don't do that. So I think that as anyone, it doesn't just have to be upper leadership. We need to make sure that we instill, especially in the newer generation, that the importance of you always are on duty. I mean, you might not be on duty and getting paid that day, but you are on duty and you are representing the department, even if you're not on technically shift that day.
Yes. So I'll just chime in a little bit. So when I first got there, I really didn't understand the community interaction portion of it, but quickly I was educated on that through the union of how we interact. The beginning of school, we did fundraisers for backpacks, and on the first day of school, we would be at intersections with the crossing guards to help the children across. And they not only got a chance to see the crossing guard, they got to see the fire department also. Now, we did that with personnel that was on duty, personnel that was off duty, that volunteered at the time. And we saw that the school board took that and kind of ran with it. So every time that there was a major step in a child's, school career, from elementary to middle, from middle to high, and from high school on to college, we were invited in to talk about the fire service. And we had a program where on Saturday, if the kid wanted to come by and help wash their fire truck and see what the fire station was like, they could come, as long as they was accompanied by a parent if they were at a certain age. But once they got to be, 16 and above, they could sign the waiver that they could come by, help wash the truck, have breakfast with us, talk with the guys about the career, talk about, the firefighters, about the fire service. That, to me, I saw kids' eyes open up to the fire service in a way that I didn't see with us going out doing regular recruiting. So we were recruiting, kids who were in college or adults, but we had not reached back to those who were in high school or in middle school. And I saw that as a plus. So the community involvement with being in the Rotary Club or being a scout leader or at church, those things where when we had questions about the fire service, people felt, I think, more at ease talking to us when we were in those arenas, rather than they be at a commission meeting and then they're asking questions. I felt like they trusted our opinion more when we were in a non-regimented meeting where we could talk one-on-one, just like, if you were out having a cup of coffee. So I felt like that community involvement was a lot easier for the citizens to talk to us and ask questions. And like you said, going to the grocery store, it was always a meet and greet session. And I only think I had one meeting with someone that asked, well, why do you come to the grocery store every day? And then they started off with, I think it's a wear and tear on the engine. I think it's gasoline and the tires and everything, that you guys should just go once a week. And then we had to break it down to them and teach them what we were doing. So there are 3 shifts. We're here for 24 hours. And this is why we do it the way that we do it. After that was explained to the person, then it was like, oh, okay, now I understand. So the community involvement of talking, educating, and getting them to understand that what you saw on television for the fire service is partially correct, but it's not 100% correct as to what we really do.
You just made some excellent points, Ace, especially about the opportunity to educate people. I know there was one agency that was changed their name of their department from fire department to fire rescue department. I think a lot of times people hear fire department and they expect the fire department is only going to go if there's a fire in your house or a car fire, and they don't really understand all the other aspects that the fire service does, such as, hazardous materials, heavy rescuing. And so they changed their name to help the community understand that you're not just a fire department. So you're right. Every time we're out in the public, it gives us the opportunity to educate the community on all the services that we provide, and that how to get involved, because there's a lot of citizens that want to be involved, but they just don't know how to get involved. And you made another, you made another good point, and I'm going to go on to with the girls' camps now, how almost every fire department you see now is having some level or some type of a girls' fire camp for girls, and it's kind of twofold. It's letting your community and your surrounding communities know that the children of our community are important and we want to teach them things, but it's also used as an excellent recruitment tool to get young girls to see other female firefighters doing the position and teaching them how to be a firefighter. So Chief Mozdean, I know you were involved with the girls camps. Can you talk about the importance of having, why departments have girls camps as part of community service?
Yeah, I sure can. The girls camp to me is an opportunity for girls to get an experience of what it's like to be a firefighter at a crucial age where they would likely be intimidated by boys who are a little bit bigger and stronger. And this gives them an opportunity to sort of check out the job and to meet female firefighters and male firefighters, but to meet firefighters doing the job in a way that is not really stressful for them. So they get a chance to experience it. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, what about the boys fire camp? And I feel like for a long time we have had that in Explorer programs and in programs like that. And not to say that women aren't or girls haven't been invited, they have, and I appreciate that. But this is a unique opportunity for girls to get their hands on the hose without being around people, boys that may be bigger and stronger, a little more aggressive at that age, especially in their teens when they're likely to be intimidated by that. So it gives them a great opportunity to sort of to get some hands-on experience.
Yeah, I agree with you, Chief. It's the intimidation factor is taken away. The girls, some might come and not be a little intimidated even to be there, that they don't. I was at one and that was like, well, my parents told me to come here. But by the end of it, when they're seeing other, especially the female firefighters that are there, and they realize that the female firefighters are all from all around the Bay Area, not just that agency that's hosting that camp, and that they're there, and I'm going to use the word sisterhood, and they see that, and they see that they could be a part of that. So I think it's really important to have the girls camp. Chief Clemons, I know you're starting one in your agency. I think it's next month.
Yes, we are on October 11th. We're having our first ever one-day girls fire camp in the city of Forest Park, and we are so excited about it. Not only is this an opportunity to show young ladies what it takes to be a firefighter, but it also shows them what it takes to become a strong, independent young woman. I'm a big advocate for women and girls. So this is just an opportunity to increase that advocacy and also show that young women that they can be whatever they choose to be, even firefighters. We know that women make up roughly 4% nationally. And we also know that saying, what is it, Chief? If you can see it, you can be it. So what a way, girls fire camps, what a way to demonstrate and show all young ladies that this is a career choice for them. I'd like to add one other thing. There is a term called occupational segregation, where 25% of females that represent male-dominated professions, and the same likewise for males. So this is one of those occupational segregation opportunities that we get to increase the women applicants in the fire service throughout the country.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So I think probably almost all of us have sat on entry-level interviews, and we hear a lot of times somebody will say, and somehow throw into one of their answers, even if it doesn't really pertain to the question you're answering, that they do anything to get the job. I'll do anything you want me to do. Once I get hired, I'll be the person that you could turn to for anything you see. But what's the expectation that you expect for someone that says that? I mean, Chief Mozdean, I know we've sat on interviews before, and then when it comes time for some volunteers, it's just crickets. No one's volunteering to do anything, especially if it entails being off duty. So do you think that there's been a decrease? I know a lot of departments now are going 48 hours on, 96 hours due to the commutes and such. So do you think that there's been a decrease in the amount of people that want to do things off duty now, that want to volunteer off duty? Because I know where we used to work, Chief Mozdean, if you volunteered off duty, it was your time. And I know that we did it numerous times. But do you see that there's a decrease in it just because of the newer, I don't want to say the newer generation of firefighter, but the newer generation of firefighter?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always like I'm a very like trusting, optimistic person. So I really think that when people are in their entry level interview and they will do
Uh-oh,
anything,
breaking up.
I'm sorry, can you not hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. You were breaking up for a moment, but it's good.
As people get on the job, they, their life changes and there's competing priorities. And some of those, unfortunately are hanging out with the crews and, and going surfing or whatever. So I think
I think what she was going to say is their priorities the priorities don't change, but their lifestyle changes. So when possibly they were a new firefighter going through the process, they had more time to have outside endeavors that they'd be able to volunteer. And then once they come into the fire department, they want to hang out more with the crew and such. And I could be paraphrasing what she was trying to say wrong, but that's what I think kind of happens, is that you're there for 48 hours, and a lot of people, they don't have any issue with going to do whatever for the 48 hours. But when it comes time for their 96 hours off or 48 hours off, that's kind of where they have in their mind, that's my time. If I'm not, and I've had people actually say to me, well, I'm not going to get paid for it, so I'm not going to do it. So I think that's like I noticed it before I had retired, that the amount of people that were doing things off duty actually had kind of decreased a bit. So
Yeah, Chief, nowadays it's about work-life balance.
exactly.
And we're dealing with a different generation, unfortunately, but fortunately, they look at the fire service and life differently. When we started, this was just something that we knew that was ingrained in us when we came into the fire service. I think even today, culturally, if we don't transcend those traditions and ensure those efforts are permeating throughout the organization, that trend is going to continue to decrease. Again, we do need work-life balance for sure, but we also need to understand that we're there for 24 hours, but we joined a fire service, and that service is 24 hours a day, 365 days a week, in collaboration with that work-life balance.
And I know everybody on this, my guests today, I know that all of you do volunteer off duty and do a lot to your communities off duty and continue to do things off duty. And I really commend you for that. So mentoring, we always hear the term mentoring, and some people would not think that is a big part of giving back to the fire service. So what are the benefits of mentoring, both not only for a fire department, but for the person being mentored? Because you are providing a service to the person, but to some degree you're providing a service to the department, because you're mentoring that person to better themselves to the next position, or even just to be better in the position they're at. So some people wouldn't think that mentoring actually is giving back to the fire service, but it is. So what do you think the benefits of that are?
I think mentoring. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say mentoring to me, it's huge, and it's just there's so many things that someone who's got time and experience in the service can teach you that you probably would never come across in a book or in a formal class setting. So having someone that you can trust and can come to with questions, or when you're seeking advice, to me it goes a long way, and not only professionally but on a personal level. If someone sees you as a mentor, there's a lot of responsibility with that. You have to, this individual's looking up to you and they see you as an example, and they're watching everything you do, believe it or not just the good things, so that it's something to be mindful as well when you are in that mentoring position, but especially when they're new and you've got a positive mentor to really just be there for them and help them and guide them, which sometimes the one-on-one interaction, they might be intimidated or anxious to speak up in front of others. Whereas when they have that one-on-one with someone who has time and experience, they can really get to ask those questions and dig a little bit deeper, and it'll help them grow professionally, and it helps the mentor along the way too, because they might ask them a question that the mentor doesn't know yet, and then they're like, I don't know that, but let me find out, and then they learn together. So to me, mentoring is huge. It's been huge for me and the mentors that I've had along the way.
Ace, were you
Mentors play an amazing development in a young person's career. Because if you come in and you have no direction and you're unfamiliar with the service, someone needs to lead and guide you. Your officer, yes. Your lieutenant, your district chief, or your battalion chief, or whoever, yes. But then when you can connect with someone on a personal level and a professional level, that younger person is more at ease. I know that when I came in, my first duty station, the person who was my mentor ended up being the driver, not the lieutenant. And that driver, coached me through a difficult lieutenant for my first 6 months. And I was feeling like I wanted to move back to Tallahassee after my first 6 months with the lieutenant I had, because he only spoke to me 5 times in 6 months. And I was like, what am I doing wrong that this guy's not coaching me or teaching me how to be a better, firefighter? And the driver was the one, he was like, well, he's from that era. Now, he said, I'm going to teach you what to do and how to do it. And that guy, he didn't understand what he was doing at the time, but he was coaching and he was mentoring me. And he passed away last year. And I told him at another meeting, I said, you don't know how much you changed me the first time I met you and when we were on duty together. I said, you were more of the lieutenant to me than the lieutenant. So when I started developing into driver and lieutenant and the hazmat captain and all the other stuff, I made sure that everyone was comfortable, that I was accessible, and I was encouraging. And I developed our professional growth on the side that I was on, which was hazmat. Developed that professional growth. So when the guy or whoever it was that came to me and said, well, how can I promote forward in our area of hazmat? And would sit down with them and just walk them through that. And that portion of it, of them being able to sit down, talk, discuss, understand, and know what the department wanted from them, what I wanted from them, and what they wanted for themselves. And that was the other question that I used to always ask them. I was like, tell me what you want from the service. And then I said, I'll tell you what the service wants from you. And I said, those things should intertwine with each other. So in your development, your personal development and your professional development should be intertwined. So when you're asking to go to school or when you're asking to promote up, I'm that person here to help coach you and teach you how to move forward. But in your personal life, I always call myself a dad when I was at work. I was like, I'm your work dad. And that's what I kept telling him. I said, yes, I'm your lieutenant, but I'm also your work dad. And it got odd to me when I became the older guy. I was like, Dad, go on. I said, I'm the old guy now. So, but it was one of those things that as I mentored the young guys and I retired, some of them, I don't even remember talking to them that much. But at my retirement, they would name specific dates and times and events that they would say, you helped me through this. You mentored me in this area right here. And that was one of those things that I look back and, I was mentoring when I didn't know I was mentoring it sometimes.
Yeah, so I mean, I think with our answers, or the discussions that you guys just provided, we do realize that mentoring is giving back to the fire service. You're helping with retention. Like Ace, you made a good point of ask the person what do they want from the fire service, especially with the newer generation. I mean, I think we can all agree it's not what it was when we came in, which could be good or it could be bad. It depends how you want to look at that, because the newer firefighter brings a lot of different skill sets that are needed in the fire service, such as technology and such. And so what do they want in the fire service? And then question, how can you help do that? So you are providing something to the community and to the department with mentoring someone. For the community, you're providing making sure that firefighter is better trained, better developed, and able to have succession planning, retention. It's going to build teamwork, and it's, like I said, it's going to make the department just so much better. So mentoring is actually, some people would probably disagree that it is actually part of giving back to the fire service. So the next question, and Heather, you kind of, Chief Mozdean, you hit it on a little bit about, but although some may disagree, being part of the union is giving back to the department. Do you agree with that statement, disagree with that statement? And I don't mean just being like you pay your union dues every month that come out of your check automatically, but actually being involved with the union, going to the union meetings and having a voice and discussions that are going on with your agency, as well as when the union's out there campaigning for certain members to either be a city council person or the mayor or such. So do you guys agree with that doing stuff like that is beneficial for community service, or if you feel that the union should stay separate from the fire service, so to speak?
I definitely think that the union and the department should work hand in hand. I know that there's work differentiation sometimes where the city would want to do X and then the union wants to do Y. But I've seen over my years at Gainesville where the union and the city were hand in hand in a lot of things, like community events, or when we would go to a call and someone's wheelchair ramp was, or needed a wheelchair ramp, the union would come in, they would foot some of the money, and we would go to the city and go, hey, can you guys spare some money for us to help the citizen get a wheelchair ramp? And also we campaigned with, Home Depot and Lowe's and the big box stores for them to donate also. And the city would 9 out of 10 times say, yes, we can, provide this portion of money to get this particular thing taken care of. That's how our community paramedic program kind of took root, was from events like that. And then once we, from the union side, said, is there a way that the department can do preventative measures in the community? And it was a part of, just like the wheelchair ramp, or someone needed a elevated commode, or someone needed what do they call it, handicap pool handles in the restroom and stuff like that. We were coming in and doing that, and then the department started the community paramedic program. So when we would go out on calls and saw that there are needs in the community, so you would send a link back to our public education person, and then they would start, rounding up help. So in that part, that the union said, yes, we're okay with that. And at one point in time, the union was saying that we should be getting paid since it was off-duty, help. And then it was like, no, we're helping and we're not asking for money back. And that portion of it was very instrumental in getting our community paramedic program and community assist program off the ground. And now we're like a prototype for some of the current surrounding departments. So they came to us and asked, what did you do? How did you see this? How did you develop it? And most importantly, how did you get the city to buy into it? And that was one of the things where if you present it to the city in the right manner, they'll buy into it. If you come into it and try to be forceful, I thought, then I felt like they would have been more apprehensive as to move forward with that program. So when the union would make the effort to move forward as one, the union and the department, instead of saying the union is doing this or just the department is doing this, when they said both the union and the city were in agreement as to what we were going to accomplish as one. I thought that was a great thing.
Yeah, Ace, I agree with everything you're saying there. I think, and Chief Baker, I think that anytime somebody is giving back, even if it's being part of the union, I think it is giving back and making the department stronger. I think, those of us who have been in for long enough, we know that a department works best when the union and management are on the same page. But we also know that unfortunately, sometimes there's competing interests. And so to have a labor union that negotiates for the wages and benefits and work conditions of our firefighters is really, really important. Of course, as managers, we want that too. But when we have competing interests or the city is telling us, you have to cut funds, it's important for them to have a voice for the people and for the rank and file. I think that anytime somebody volunteers to help in any way in the fire department, it contributes to a better whole. And as a community sort of resource, it helps make the community better. So I think as long as people are doing what they can to make the community and the fire department better, they're doing their share.
Yeah, and another way with the union is, and we think about, I think we briefly touched on it a little earlier about when there's a ballot measure on the ballot that increased taxes, or it's usually to increase taxes. And sometimes it involves smaller agencies, the fire departments. And if the community does not know what you do, and because you're not out in the community doing things, they don't see you. But if you're on emergency call, or they see you driving down the street, and every time some of them might not even know where their local fire station is because they never see a fire engine just parked outside. And I do understand in some areas that you probably can't park the fire engine outside, but they don't see the fire station, fire apparatus parked outside the fire station. They don't see the fire department at events. They don't know what the fire department does. So we already know taxes are already high. So to try to ask your community members to increase their taxes for the fire department, whether it be to build a new station or get the fire department equipment, it's probably not going to pass because the community just doesn't know what you do. And they just probably think that you make a lot of money, and they have no clue what you do. And so even when you go door to door to try to get signatures for this, or I'm sure we've all been to somewhere either in our own community or we've been out of town somewhere, and we see people standing outside the grocery store, the Home Depots, or the Lowe's, and asking for people to sign a petition for something. And I mean, that's great. But if the fire department's actually out there being seen and heard, then when it's time to have our members of the community vote on things, it's going to be in their mind that what the fire department does. And then Heather, you made a good point too. I know a lot of departments have where they bring the council members and the other dignitaries of the city down, and they do, I believe it's called Fire Ops 101, where they put the council members and the mayors and such through what a firefighter does. And so they're educating them, and that's generally put on by the unions, so that they're educating the mayor, the city council members and such of what a fire department does. What is it like to be in a fire? What is it like to, use the jaws of life or the hearse tools and such, to educate your mayors and your city council members of what is the job about, so they have a better understanding of what the job is about. So that's where it goes. Heather, you mentioned Chief Mozdean about the importance of the union working hand in hand and having a good relationship, the labor management relationship, because now you've just educated the members of your leadership, which is the mayor, the city council and such, of what you do, and they've had a hands-on experience of what you actually do and what you go through. So I think you guys made some very excellent points. Does anyone else have anything to say on that topic? So many agencies will allow paid time off to go to conferences, seminars, and such. So what is the benefit of an agency allowing or paying and giving the time off for the members to go? I know historically, I had to use my own time and vacation and pay for my own conferences and such. But what's the benefit of having a proactive fire chief, deputy chief that's going to allow the members to go on duty or pay them overtime or even just pay for their conference or seminar?
Networking.
It's huge.
The
For the
network.
longest time.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'll just chime in real quick and then I'll digress. But as a fire chief, I think it's so important to show members that you care, that they're just not numbers. That, you know, you have to give back. That's a way of giving back. Show members that you care, that you're empowering them. You're involved in their professional development. I think it's such a great way to get off the balcony, get in the fray, to say, hey, look, I care about you. I want you to be successful. I want your career. I want you to advance your career in every way possible. And it's up to me as a fire chief to provide those means and avenues to allow our members and to support our members to reach those higher levels of education, whether they're going to conferences or taking the extra training classes, any way that we can support, it shows that you care.
Chief took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say it really shows the members like myself because I just started going probably about 2 years ago to such things like conferences and seminars. And that was really eye-opening to me because I've gone to local training and I've gone to the States Academy, which is wonderful training. We've got the best, I love going down there and I learn every time. But conferences are a whole other level of education and instruction, and you're meeting people from all over the world. And the networking, as you mentioned, is you make such connections and you learn and your eyes get open about what's going on everywhere and not just your little maybe local area or bubble. So it's been a wonderful experience. It's taught me so much, and I'm so very grateful to have Chief Clemons, who is supportive like that. And I'm, every time I go, I come back with 10 more things, that new ideas and new ways to make the department better. So it's great to have all levels and all members, wherever they're at, whether they're new firefighters or lieutenants on up all the way to chief. I think it's beneficial for everyone to go at some point.
And I felt like the conferences opened my eyes to different levels of education and communication. I felt like that the networking I made there at some of the conferences lasted, beyond my retirement. When Director Rice asked me if I wanted to go to the women's conference, and my question back to her was exactly, why are you asking a guy to go to the women's conference? She said, well, I think you're open to listening. And I said, I'm always open to listening. She was like, but you don't see day to day what a female firefighter goes through. And I said, okay, you got me on that one. And so when she did send me, it was eye-opening to me that there are things that were going on that, just as a guy, I did not realize what someone would be feeling in the fire service. Because one, being dominated by a male profession there, I felt like that, I didn't understand if someone said, well, I don't feel comfortable or I don't understand why. And then I asked the question, I said, well, tell me why is that? And the young lady said, well, as a female, when I go into certain situations, someone has already looked at me and their expectation of me is lower than what they would see from someone else. And I said, well, why do you think that is? And she said, well, it's already ingrained in them. And I said, well, not everybody. But then I said, well, I understand what you're saying. I said, but show me or tell me how that can be changed. And it was simply have no less of an expectation of me than you would of someone else. Give me the equal. Let me prove that I am who I am. And I said, you're absolutely right with that. So, and that brought to me back to when I was a driver and lieutenant. When I was a driver, I would go to whoever and I was like, come, let me show you how to drive this truck or pump this truck. And one of my, I call them my best dogs, was Paula Buckholtz. Paula, it was, you know, she had never really driven big trucks before. And she came in and absorbed like a sponge. And then once she got comfortable, she was off like a rocket. And I think it was the women's conference in Sacramento. Young lady that was giving a class, and she was feeling intimidated one day, or not one day. She had moved up in rank, and she was a firefighter, then a driver, and then she became the lieutenant over the guys that she was working with, and they shut down on her, and to the point where she felt so isolated that she was wanting to harm herself. And I couldn't understand that because I'd never been isolated that much in fire service or life. And I said, okay, I need to be more cognitive of that. So one of the things that I did after that conference was I started asking, so I would get like a new rookie firefighter or paramedic, male or female, and I would ask them, what are your fears? What are your threats? And let's work through that. So when we start going to the conferences, so I went to two. I think one was in Sacramento, and I can't remember where the other one was, but made networks there from the ladies in Australia, someone in Germany. I still had Lisa in Oakland. Then I had Chief Clemons when she was still down in Bonita there, DC and everywhere. So I feel like sending your people to conferences will open their eyes to some of the things that someone may feel have threats inside of their departments, or they may get answers inside of going to that conference also. And I really felt like there were answers for me to questions that I didn't know I had until they were, raised inside of that conference. And then I went back and asked my people, and on a one-on-one seating, I was like, "Tell me how you feel. Tell me how do you feel in the department? Do you feel threatened? Do you feel intimidated? Do you feel left out?" And that brought that questioning to me to take back to my department from that conference or from those conferences that I went to. So.
And actually, Ace, you just made a good point. We met at the EFO program back in 2008, which was
long time ago.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have good math skills, so that was a long time ago. And like I met Chief Clemons in 2006 doing an assessment center. So you're right. It doesn't. I mean, although that's not a seminar, it is how you do interact with people. And it also gives you ideas of what other agencies and organizations might be doing in their community that you could bring back to help your community. Like we probably all have huge homeless populations, and you start talking to people at whether it be at a seminar or class locally or anywhere. I know recently I was talking to somebody that went to the FRI conference, and they were saying how that some subjects came up about how other agencies deal with the homeless. So it's the opportunity to bring back new ideas to your agency of how, I mean, we all have pretty much the same problems in our agency. You just change the names in the department, and it's the same issues and problems that almost every city is facing. And it allows you just to look at things in different perspectives, to see that there's more than one way to deal with things. So I think that when fire chiefs are very proactive in allowing members to go off duty or pay, not even if they haven't to, I think some would just be happy even if they just paid for the conference and they had to use their own time, because even that's showing that you care, that you want to see that member develop to be a better part of for the role they're in now and for future endeavors within the fire service, and the amount of information that they are going to bring back to your own agency. So there are many ways that a member can become involved in an agency, such as being on a committee, or other ways. I know Heather or Chief Mozdean, you did the Citizens of Oakland Respond to Emergencies program. So this in itself is giving back, but how do you think that, like, we both did the community response to emergencies program in Oakland. I know Chief Clemons, you did it in Boynton Beach. That allows the and in Oakland it was very well received. It allows the community to want to respond, help respond, know when to help to respond to an emergency and such. Do you feel that that's a benefit to have those programs, that they should be offered year round? Or I know a lot of agencies start them after there was a big event, or can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, Chief, I think many agencies now have CERT programs, which is essentially what you're talking about. We called it the Communities of Oakland Respond to Emergencies, but essentially it was a CERT program where members in the community volunteer to help out in cases of, extreme disaster. And I think all of us in the fire service know that at some point, if not already, at some point, there's going to be an incident or an event that overwhelms the emergency responders. So having that ability to lean on your community in times of need is so important. Also, like a huge part of this, and like we're talking about with the conferences and the camps and mentorship and even doing these talks together, it's a community that we're establishing, right? It's a community amongst ourselves. It's a community in the firehouse. It's a community in your neighborhood. And then allowing these emergency responders to be part of your emergency community and then to be a community of themselves. It's, people need this. They need to have a feeling of something bigger than themselves. And it enables all of us, I think, to really live a life that's a little bit better because of this community that we have. So I think that's just two of the small ways in which CERT programs help. I could go on and on. I think they're so valuable. It's a good training tool. It's good recruitment. It helps the citizens stay engaged with what's going on in the fire service. It's so important.
And you made a good point, Chief. And I think we all during the pandemic, I mean, a lot of states, more so than others, kind of almost pretty much everything shut down. Nobody could come to the fire station. The fire department wasn't going out to events and such because of COVID and the unknown fear of the COVID, so now that COVID has died down, we need to get back out there. We need to let our communities know that we're out there, because like I mentioned before, so for most people in the community, the public interaction with our members will not come when we respond to an emergency. The reflection of the department is going to be with the interactions the members of our department have at the grocery store, when we're driving down the street. Are we driving, following the rules and regulations? Are we just in a rush to get, not even on an emergency call, but just in a rush to get somewhere? Is our fire engine clean? Are our members clean? Do we look presentable? And a lot of this stuff, I mean, social media has helped the perception of a lot of fire departments when you put the good things that are on there. I think it was recently, Heather, Chief Mozdean, in your old department, where I saw on the social media page where they went back and cut the grass because the individual that was cutting the grass had to be transported to the hospital. But we need to do this year round. It just can't be, here or there posting something that's happening on social media because look what we did. And a lot of the stuff that we do isn't in the press. A lot of the stuff that we do, I mean, if it's a huge fire or something, sure, it's going to be on the press, but they don't see that when we go like at 2:00 in the morning to, help the elderly woman that fell out of bed. They don't, so we don't want to be the first interaction that they see is on the emergency call. So we do have to, as a department, have some kind of community outreach, and we need to make it a priority 365 days a year. And like I said, the social media is helping, but not everybody has social media. Unfortunately, people still don't have access to the internet and stuff. So we need to get that when citizens think of the fire department, they don't literally just think the only thing we do is fight fires, or they don't see a story in the paper or a segment on the news about a house fire. They think of us when they hear whatever our fire department is called, they hear that's just a small part of what we do. They have the impression that we wear many hats. We need to have that we wear many hats, and that we don't just respond to emergency situations, that we help mitigate beyond structural firefighting. And so we need to instill in our members the importance of community involvement, both on duty and off duty. We need to instill in our members the importance of being professional at all times. But mostly we just need to be make sure that when we are representing the fire department at the grocery store, at events, at calls, that we're professional at all times. Because like I said, we don't really want the first impression of the fire department to be when they see us on emergency. And that goes back to the community-based fire department of being more of a good neighbor than a government entity. We mentioned that you're there for 24, 48 hours, sometimes 72 hours. You are a part of that community at that point. You live in that fire station, which generally is in a residential area, and you become part of that community. So you should get to know your community. I know Chief Mozdean, when we worked, we had the little kids next door that would come over all the time at the little apartment building. And that's important. I mean, that's where you have to start to make the connections I can't instill how much community involvement is important and giving back to the department, the communities that we serve. I mean, live in, or or work in. So we're about out of time. Does anything does anyone have anything that they would like to add?
So how's the departments coming along with I guess the new wave is the community risk reduction. How is that being received within the departments right now?
That's a good
I can
question.
speak to that real quick. As far as for Forest Park, we just recently got to present to our council and community a new platform that we have. So, NFPA 1300, the standard on community risk reduction and all that. Craig 1300, it's a web-based platform, and it takes in all sorts of data and input from demographic information, and actually has a section there where it's got our fire department data as well as the incident data for like the last 3 years. And we were able to show them this and break it down, and it's a tool to conduct the community risk assessment for us to do. So it can narrow down target areas, hotspots, what we need to focus on, and how to actually build the community risk reduction plan and implement it moving forward. But before you can do that, you need to have the data and the facts. And so when we presented this, they loved it, and they were so happy to see us have this tool and move forward. And I hope that everyone's checking it out. There are times we posted it as far as the link to it. So just that brief introduction of a lot of people don't really know exactly what that is yet. So we just kind of gave a broad overview, and it was received really well. And that was about, what was it, Chief, 2 weeks ago? And so moving forward, definitely with our fire marshal's office and EMA, we're going to drill down and truly create that plan moving forward, and look at our hotspots and what we need in our community to focus on for prevention and education. But it went really well. So that's a great tool. And of course, just going to the standard, it really spells out what you need for that plan as well.
Ace,
Right. So
Ace, we're about out of time, so I don't mean to cut you off.
Sure.
That was actually an excellent question, and you kind of segue into what a future show is going to be on, which would be community risk reduction. So I'll make sure that I get you on that show, Ace. Because that's a good segue. That wasn't even planned, y'all. So we got about a minute left if anyone has anything else they want to add. Okay, so I'd want to thank each guest for being a part of the radio show. Thanks to Fire Engineering again. Thanks to all the listeners and members of Women in Fire. Remember to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, and to check out our webpage, which is womeninfire.org, and to plan for the 2024 International Conference, which will be held in San Diego in September. And thank you for everybody. I'm happy that I had such a great group of fire professionals that shared their vast knowledge on our topic tonight. And thank you and good night.